My name is Donald Dede. I come from Nigeria in a place called Abua. Abua is in the state of Rivers State and the capital is Port Harcourt. There was a rift in Nigeria between the federal government and the eastern region of Nigeria. And the eastern region wanted to secede, to separate from Nigeria. And the name they chose was Biafra. And when that happened, Nigeria and Biafra got into war. I was a young man of about maybe 18 years old. I knew nothing about politics. I joined the army because I wanted to get out of the rut that was happening at that time, thinking that when you join the army, you have a more better time. I took a bicycle ride to go to the next branch town where the army recruitment was taking place. On my way, I saw my mom. She was at a burial ceremony. So I just waved to her. She didn't even know where I was going. I didn't stop to speak to her. I just went along. After the training, I was sent to a barracks. And at the barracks, we were getting ready, I think the following day or so, to be assigned to the war front. On that day, I was outside with a fellow soldiers, all young people. We were outside just chatting away. When the group of officers came along and started asking us if any of us have any experience of 3D drawing. At first, I said nothing, but nobody else was saying anything either. I raised my hand up. I said, yeah, I have an experience of 3D drawing. So I was called out to come with them. I was then taken to an office where I had a draftsman table. So I sat down and I was given a volume of a book. And in one of the pages is a picture of a machine. I was asked to draw this image and make it look 3D. So I sat down and I started doing the drawing of this image. I did a series of drawings. Eventually, came to decided they liked it. Took the drawings I've made and took it away. Came back to me and said to me to become an ammunition technician. So for that, I had to go through some training. And after the ammunition technician, I qualified as an ammunition technician. I was then assigned to the Ordnance Battalion. And the Ordnance Battalion was the 22nd Battalion. That meant that I wasn't going to go to the war front. So I never saw the war front all through my army life. All the people I've trained with, they all went to the war front. Obviously, some of them killed people and some of them died. But I was lucky. Being an ammunition technician stopped me from experiencing the war front. I was in charge of all the ammunitions in the depot. Bombs, landmines, guns, uniform, all the paraphernalia of military. That was my job, to make sure that there was no accident in the depot. You can't get it too hot, it has to be in a particular temperature so that stop an explosion, an accidental explosion. It can be dangerous work, but it was quite pretty easy if you know what you're doing. As a technician, ammunition technician, I have to go to the airport to upload arms coming from abroad. And in one occasion, some of the soldiers who came to upload all these ammunitions into the trucks were very badly dressed. They looked very shabby and tattered. They didn't really look like soldiers. And on that particular day, very busy, I was concerned with other things. Some of these soldiers have dressed in the new uniform. I said to them, what do you think you're doing? He said to me, okay, we don't have clothes. Clothes are all tattered and things like that. So we thought we'd just take these new ones. I felt sorry for them, really. So I said, okay, you can keep it. They didn't take anything extra. They just dressed up, put on boots and new uniform. The following day, I was arrested and taken to an office. And in this office, there were 4 army officers who were interviewing me. They were asking me about the uniform of the previous day. I told them I didn't know anything about it. A soldier was ushered in from this door by 2 other soldiers holding him on both sides. He was really bloody, all over. I recognized him as a friend of mine who we worked together. He was at the airport on the day. When I said that, I felt sorry for him because I don't want him to be killed. Probably thought it was him that allowed the soldiers to keep the uniform. I said it was me, so I accepted responsibility. So when I did so, the man was then removed and taken away. And then I was taken away myself. I wasn't tried. I was taken straight away to be detained. Looking back now, I think I was arrested not because of the missing uniforms, but rather my audacity for allowing the soldiers to keep the uniforms. It was as if you have taken away the power away from them of making that decision. But anyway, I was taken to another camp. I saw our military chief. He just stood there, stared at me, stared at me, stared at me for a while, and then said nothing, and then they walked back indoors. And I was taken away to this other army quarters, where I was made to do series of torturing exercises, and I was put inside one of the holes dug like a grave, and in this hole I was tortured again inside the hole, and then I was taken out, made to do all kinds of squatting, carrying bricks, heavy bricks. If I get tired and I try to, my hands start getting weak, I was hit with the butt of a gun. So I had to keep my hands up again. And this went on and on and on. And then eventually, when they had their fun, I was then taken to detention camp, where I was then left there. And then one day there was an area they started bombing the compound, and every man was running for himself. Some people jumped. I came down. Instead of going to the bushes, I went under the stairs, and I hid there. Once the bombing was over, I came out. There had a whole heap of people dead. You know, people dead left, right, and center. People with their body was squashed, right? You know, squashed. After that bombing, it didn't take, I think, a couple of days later, everybody started escaping from the camp. The guards that are supposed to guard the camp, they all run away. There was nobody guarding the detention anymore. So everybody started finding their way. So I left the camp myself. I started walking down the road. I saw a guy who asked me if I could exchange things with him. I had some food. So I exchanged the food for him, and he gave me some civil clothes, which I put on. Okay, walking down the road, I was stopped by the soldiers who were in a van. And this van has other captured soldiers who have been arrested, like me. Say, you are a soldier, don't tell us that you're not a soldier. We can tell you're a soldier, by the way you stand, your pose, everything. And I was taken to another detention camp. And this detention camp had one door, one window right at the top. You can't reach it. You need to climb on other people's shoulders to look at the window. While we were at the cells, we will start hearing things, outside. People were making a whole heap of noise, sound, kind of commotion. We decided to have a look at the window, so clap on each other's shoulder to peep through the window. And we saw that the soldiers were all scattering, running away. We knew that something was wrong, and maybe Nigerian soldiers have come into town. And we banged on the door, to let us out. And luckily, they did open the door. I found my way out, and I started walking. I walked out of the camp. I ended up coming to this army checkpoint. When I got to the army checkpoint, whom did I see? My dad. So I saw my dad. My dad was, he was surprised. He was also very elated. He was happy to see his son. So my dad took me straight to his home. At his home was one of my uncles. He was staying there with my dad. So things were okay now because, I got my family there now, me, my dad, and my uncle. I don't know where my mom is. I don't know where my brothers are or my sisters are. They all, God knows where they are. And then I had something to eat. A couple of days later, I was at the kitchen with my uncle when I had a sound, my father's voice. Donald! So I knew it wasn't good. So I ran down, when my dad was at the veranda, and the veranda has a wall. And my dad said, the gun! So I jumped over the wall, got down to the other side, there was a gun, I picked it up. and there were two guys, with their gun on my dad. So I went to them and I put the gun on them too. I said, I said to them, I said, if you shoot my dad, I'm going to shoot both of you. I was behind them. I said, put the gun down. You want to fight? I'll give you a fight. Just put the gun down. And it so happened, they did. They put the gun down, and then we start fighting. Me, the two guys, my uncle gave me a hand, and he was knocked out straight away. And for these guys, we fought and fought and fought and fought. And the fight ended because the Nigerian troops were coming. They were just around the corner. So because of that, the local police were able to separate, stop the fight. These two guys were Biafrans themselves. But at this time, Biafra was very lawless. There was no authority. There was no police. Police wasn't functioning anymore. There was chaos everywhere. So you had people robbers, who just went from place to place looking for whatever they can steal. And this is why these two guys were there at my father's. That's what they came there to do. And luckily, I was there to discourage them, so to speak. The war ended, and Biafra lost the war. And Biafra lost the war not because they were inferior or incapable of fighting. They lost because of sabotage. And the sabotage was from their own people who sabotaged them to Nigeria. So they lost because of that. We knew this, that the people were sabotaging, officers were sabotaging them. They were sabotaging because of money. They want to have Nigeria win the war, and at the same time, they're going to be paid for their effort. Ammunition was kept away from the troops. When ammunition is delivered to the front line, instead of giving it to the front line, take it and bury it, so the troops don't get the weapons they're supposed to use. Even uniforms were also buried. So the troops had no uniform. All their uniforms all tattered. When you're in the jungle fighting in water, in this, that, your clothes get ripped up. So you need new clothes. And many of these soldiers don't have no clothes, no boots. The troops were demoralized because of lack of all these amenities. So when I look at this today, the same thing is going on in Nigeria today because of corruption. When the war ended, people had problems, but you had soldiers who had shell shock. Nothing happened to them. No one was treated. The ones that were lost limbs, the same thing. They just had to go to the normal hospital and get treated like anyone else. There was no organization that catered for them. You are all alone. You have to fend for yourself. Now, after the war, we all went back to our various homes. All went back. Nothing happened. Nigeria went back to what Nigeria is, one people. If you come from the north, you come from the south, you are one people because we are all related. When nobody was punished, there was nothing. Today you have in Nigeria, you have the Biafran who are still trying to resurrect it. I think that's a waste of time. They should just concentrate on being Nigeria, I think. Make Nigeria whole again so that everybody can benefit from it. So recently that I went back home, I had a talk with my brother about it. No one talked about it. It's gone, gone. No one mentioned it to anyone. It was like past tense.